Hey everyone, did you get a chance to watch the first episode of Swamp Thing? Well, if you did and you want to know our thoughts about it, go ahead and click on this card so you can join in on the conversation. But here, we're going to be picking up with the Saga of Swamp Thing, issue 21, which happens to be Alan Moore's second issue in this run. The artists on this run are also very talented and incredible in their own, but there might be too many names to list off for some of the newer viewers, so anyway, today is a special day, because today we get to find out just what is Swamp Thing. It's raining in Washington tonight, and Dr. Jason Woodrue is pleased. He enjoys a sip of his wine while he gazes out the window. He briefly thinks of the old man. The old man is most likely terrified by now. He's most likely pounding on the door, hoping to escape. There will be blood, Jason thinks. Hopefully, there will be blood in extraordinary quantities. It was not long ago that Jason was shown around this old man's building. The old man was so proud of it. The building. Large and powerful businessmen need large buildings to show their corporations off to the world. This same corporation secured Jason's release from prison. Now Jason has no choice but to work for the old man. At first, this was very strange to Jason. There were no security guards in the facility. Everything was electronic, as the old man, General Sutherland, likes to brag. Then, General Sutherland tells Jason why he's really here. There is something in the freezer that will be of great interest to Jason. Something that was once human. Something that once went by the name of Alec Holland. Not too long ago, Alec was a doctor much like Jason. He was once doing important government work creating something called the biorestorative formula. His treatment was sabotaged in an explosion, and Holland and his chemical soup fell into the swamp, and Swamp Thing is what came out. Alec once had a wife, co-workers, and lovers. She was the only person other than him that was exposed to the chemicals. Unfortunate for her, she was shot and killed shortly after Holland's disappearance. General Sutherland, in an attempt to further understand Swamp Thing, dug up Linda's grave and had his team of scientists look deeper at her cellular structure to find connections. They found nothing. You see, the biorestorative formula had collected in Linda's body. It just hadn't changed her in any way. It was never designed to affect human tissue, just plants. So that brings up the question, why did it affect Alec? That is why Jason is here. That is the answer that he will give the general. As long as Jason is talented with plant science, as the general was told. Jason is the Floronic man, right? As Jason travels deeper in thought, he wonders if the old man is pounding on the glass yet, with fists as weak as withered apples. You see, he has long hated the old man, but he agreed to work for him as long as it kept him out of prison. So, he started with an autopsy. Since his own biochemical experiment had gone wrong and altered his DNA, he has longed for the opportunity to meet another human-vegetable hybrid in order to learn more about himself. First, he dug up two large pod-like structures. They looked like lungs, but they weren't lungs. Human lungs have tiny capillary tubes to let oxygen pass. These vegetable fibers were way too coarse to allow such an action. They just suck and blow. They don't deliver oxygen to the body in any way. They don't work. There aren't lungs at all, Jason concluded. But all the same, he wondered, what were they? As well as a sponge-like vegetable brain. As he examines it, he finds that even if Swamp Thing had not been shot, this brain is not a brain. Another imitation, as well as the useless heart and the unworkable kidneys. The weeks were long and fruitless. This is when the old man would start accompanying Jason more. His distaste for the man ripened with each encounter. The old man would talk about his electric security, about how all the doors were controlled from his office. Sometimes he would talk to Jason about his career. The word freak was used a number of times, and Jason would stand there and take it. That was Jason's life for a while. Every night he came back to the apartment that had been rented out for him, and every morning he would go back to work, hauling organs that couldn't work out of a body that hadn't needed them. And finally, after 6 weeks, he had the answer. He had opened a reference book to the wrong page one night after hours of research, and just like that, everything clicked. The answer. His skin is dry. It's raining outside. And he's thinking about the old, liver-spotted fingers clawing at the unbreakable glass. He's thinking about the old man there in his office when Jason went to tell him of his discovery earlier that day. He's thinking about melting frost and trickling water and something small, soft, and green thrusting through the dead and petrified grayness. The old man had no one else to blame. He didn't listen to Jason. He didn't understand the correlation to the planarian worms, the imbecile. He didn't understand that these worms can devour each other and pass on their consciousness and intelligence on as foodstuffs. He didn't understand what this had to do with Alec Holland. Imagine the night Alec Holland disappeared. He was working in his lab when he finds the explosive stuck under his desk. Then, out of pure reaction from his muscles and the explosion propelling him through the door, he sinks into the swamp. But by this time, Alec Holland is already dead. His corpse sinks into the swamp along with the formula that he was working on. And once his body hits the bottom, it rots and decomposes away. Now it's time for the plants. The plants whose hungry root systems are busily ingesting the mortal remains of Alec Holland. Those plants eat him, and they become infected by a powerful consciousness that does not realize that it's no longer alive. Imagine a cloudy, confused intelligence with only the vaguest notion of self trying to make sense of its environment. It remembers having bones, so it builds itself a skeleton out of wood. It remembers having muscles, so it builds those too. It remembers having lungs and a brain, and so it does its best to duplicate those as well. This is what the general is dealing with. Not an Alec Holland that somehow transformed into a plant, but a plant that thought it was Alec Holland. A plant that was trying its best to be Alec Holland. General Avery Sutherland, the fool, didn't understand. There was more to the story, the ramifications, the consequences. But the old man did not care. The breakthrough was all he wanted. And with that, Jason Woodrew's position at the company had expired. He was fired on the spot, left alone in the general's office as the old man shuffled out, chuckling to himself. So it was just Jason and the general's computer, alone in the dark. He knew exactly how it worked, how to control the locks, the doors, and the lights. He even knew how to control the thermostat and the freezing units. Now Jason is sitting in his apartment, and he is laughing very loudly as he thinks of the old man. How the old man is most likely reviewing the notes that he wouldn't let Jason keep, skipping over all the big words, of course. He will most likely get bored and decide to take a stroll. He will punch his buttons and switch open doors, and he will strut proudly down the hall and think of how lucky he is to have all that he has. He really should have listened to Jason. He should have let Jason finish. Then he would have known that you can't kill a vegetable by shooting it in the head. You can shock it into a cellular coma, sure. You can keep it in stasis, in a freezer unit, of course. But you couldn't kill it. Jason wonders again what the old man is doing now. Wonders how long the old man will be able to resist taking a look for himself at the body again. But what if the body is already gone? What will the old man do then? A rational man would run back into the safety of his office to use the phone to contact some help, of course. But what would a walking pile of mold and lichen and clotted weeds that thinks it's a rational man do? Most likely the same thing. And as General Sutherland approaches his office, he sees Swamp Thing standing behind the desk with blood-red eyes that glow in the night. He manages to stutter out a few questions like, "Are you still intelligent?" and "Did you read the file?" Swamp Thing responds that he has indeed read the file and lets out a blood-curdling roar as he smashes the general's desk with two hands. Jason is thinking of the old man. The old man's cracking joints as he runs, the terror in his ancient heart. You see, this used to be a safe haven for the old man. And now, he is nothing more than a worm in a maze, a beetle in a box. And of course, there aren't any records of Swamp Thing actually killing anyone intentionally. So he believes the general should be safe, as long as the creature hasn't read his notes. The Swamp Thing must not have been killing people in an effort to keep what was left of his humanity. But what if he found out he was not human at all? That he never was? What would he do then? How will he take it? How will the old man take it when the doors don't open? When his computer system rejects him? Oh, he'll pound and hammer away at the doors, and he'll scream, unable to comprehend how this all happened to him. Oh, Jason hopes there will be blood. But the blood is not important. It won't spoil things if there's no blood, and the blood ultimately doesn't matter. Just the dying, Jason thinks. The dying is all that matters. So yeah, that is part 2 of the Saga of Swamp Thing. So I hope you guys like it. I do like it. I like horror stories. This has got all kinds of scary feels. So tell me what you guys think. Like, subscribe if you guys enjoy this kind of content, and I'll see you guys next time.